Welcome to Drinkin Bros, presented by GhostBed.com.
Welcome to Drinkin Bros. It is the nights we've all been waiting for. Trump versus Biden. The only other matchup I can think of that would be better than this is Emmanuel Lewis versus Gary Coleman.
And what's the fight though?
Gary Coleman or Emmanuel Lewis?
No, I mean, like, what are they playing a game? Are they fighting each other? What are the rules? What are the weapons?
Well, that's Greco-Roman for the two midgets, obviously. But tonight, it's no holds barred. Whoever can keep their dentures in, whoever can put down the most amount of Adderall will win tonight. And I got to be honest, I don't know what's going to happen. I had a small bet with my wife, Jessie Wiseman, earlier this morning on Ross Patterson Revolution, where I said that there is going to be some swearing tonight. And I think Biden's going to revert back to some things in his childhood.
Yeah, I would look out for Biden to say something racist tonight. I think there's a good chance that's going to happen. Unintentionally.
That's what I said.
Yeah, I think he will unintentionally say some racist shit tonight.
That's what I said. So I think he's going to revert back. We have never seen him speak past 23 minutes.
Not in like a year, right?
No, not in a year. And so the 23-minute speech was during the DNC, the convention, which was virtual. We don't know if it was recorded or if it was live. Jessie is saying that it was recorded. And I don't know the answer, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, regardless if it was recorded or not, it still didn't even go well.
No.
Right? So that's a mistake on his part to have done it, to be honest. Like, it's what is that old saying? It's better to be thought a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt. I think it's better for Biden. It would have been better for Biden to have not done any of those things. And to be honest, it probably would have been better. The left, the people that are going to vote for him either way, aren't going to believe in a conspiracy about him making up an illness. He probably should have made one up tonight, I think. But here's the point of all that. The presidency is, I don't think there's any, like, when people talk about being qualified for president, I think being a good human being is probably one of those qualifications, but otherwise, I don't know if there is a qualification for it because it's a job unlike any other that exists. And I feel like you have to, that's the point of the campaign and the rigors of the campaign, in my opinion. I pay attention more to that than I do some of the individual policies, to be honest, because if you can't keep that pace, then you can't do that job. So I think it's a very salient point that Biden clearly has not been able to do the campaigning and thus is unqualified for the position. That's my opinion.
Right.
And I think it's backed by the fact that this is a very difficult job. And if you can't maintain that kind of pace over a long period of time, like if you have to go disappear for 3 months to come out and do 1 2-hour session, that's a problem.
Yeah, I agree. And I reached out to some of my Democratic friends tonight in Los Angeles, and I said, how are you guys feeling about tonight? And they're all extremely nervous because they don't know how he's going to hold up. We've seen Joe Biden in primary debates, but let's face it, with 12 candidates on stage, a lot of the times,
you can hide a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because you're only getting, I think, total in the course of 2 hours.
Yeah.
He only got maybe 14 minutes worth of talking
and
time.
he was one of the leaders, too. So
Yes.
the other guys are hiding even more, guys and gals. Guys
Correct.
is not a fucking, come on.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on there. Anyways, I think that's a salient point. And I think, man, I want to see tough people doing tough jobs. You know what I mean? We don't necessarily have to agree, but one of the reasons pretty much everybody on the right had nothing bad to say about Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah.
When she died.
Correct.
And part of that is the culture today where Republicans or conservatives are a little bit more polite and lefties are a little more angry and, whatever the fuck. That's part of it. But the other part of it is she intentionally, did her job in a way that made you not ever question her motives or her integrity. Like, you can disagree with somebody and still, believe for sure that person's doing the right thing with their life.
Right.
We don't all have to be the same. And as a matter of fact, exposing our differences, putting them all in the same room, figuring out who is right about things is a very important part of our process. But hiding and couching your opinions and double speak and all this other bullshit, oh man.
Yeah, it's going to be tough tonight. I will say this. There has been a lot of mutual respect for RBG on both sides, though, of the party. And I think there's going to be a lot tonight as well. She was beloved by pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
And
if you're a woman in this country, you damn sure better tip your cap to Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah.
Like, she's the reason you can go out and buy a car or a house without having to have your husband sign the fucking banknote.
100%. And look, my wife doesn't give a shit about any of that feminist bullshit. But she cared about RBG, was like, hey, man, if you look back at what she did for women, like, that's an important figure. It's not Chrissy Teigen. It's not fucking Kim Kardashian out there. This is a person who literally, for every single woman out there, is the reason why you can have a bank account and a credit card.
Yeah, like, no shit.
For real.
Like, literally the reason that you as a woman right now can have a credit. I mean, obviously it would have happened at some point anyways, but she's the one that made it fucking happen.
Right.
Right. So give credit where credit's due.
And every time I get a credit card statement in the mail and something is fucked up, I don't yell at my wife. I used to yell at RBG. I can't do that anymore because she's no longer with us. But God damn it, when that Chase bill comes and I'm like, what the fuck is this? What is this? What is Birchbox? What is this reoccurring charge from Birchbox?
My favorite thing with the women, because I shop a lot too. I buy a lot of stupid bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I'm just bored, to be honest. But I like the mental gymnastics that a lot of women do. Like, oh, I'm saving money by doing this. I'm like, not really. Because we don't need any of that shit. But I'm with you. Well, let's go buy it for sure. I'm 100% on board with buying it.
Yeah.
Let's just not, say that
we
it's
need
for some
it.
reason. No.
Yeah.
But I do have, we got the cards, the Nordstrom cards. We get points on there, and it makes you feel a little bit better about being a piece of shit, right?
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least you get something. It's like getting those leather jackets from Marlboro after you saved up all the miles.
Oof.
Like, oh, I got lung cancer, but at least I got this dope-ass jacket in my Trans Am, brother. Hell yeah.
Guilty.
And then you flip your mullet back.
Yep.
And you die right there where you're standing.
I got a Marlboro cooler in the back of my Silverado right now. So I used to smoke back in the day. Don't anymore. Tonight, it would be rad, though, if Joe Biden came out in a bomber jacket, some aviators, smoking a cigarette, and just said, hey, let's get fucking wet and do this tonight, Same with Trump. If he came out and just took off the tie and said, fuck you, put down a signed copy of Art of the Deal, Ivanka walks him out on stage, and he's eating a Trump steak in front of everyone, that would be the best that we could get tonight.
What if Trump just came out with a steak?
Ah, it'd be great.
Like, and he just
Be great.
He put it on his podium, and he just sat there and slowly ate a steak throughout the entire debate.
It'd be the best.
Like, right before he had to respond to something, every time it's like, anyways, and you could still see the flecks of meat in his teeth.
It would be incredible tonight.
I mean, that's a pretty good flex, right?
Yeah, if he came out, ate a steak first, and then was like, we're going to wait. We're going to wait on this debate while I eat this steak and then go forward with it. To be honest, though, I'm as nervous tonight as I was for the Falcons in the Super Bowl, and that did not turn out well for me. Did not turn out well for me. Still not turning out well for me on every single game this year, and I hope Trump does better than I do tonight. Serious question. How long until this gets nasty tonight?
I would say they're both going to have their opening statements, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a good chance that Trump's opening statement will be a direct attack on Biden's mental health. That's my water. That's my liquid IV over there.
Somebody said, "Whose liquid IV is this?"
That's fucking Brittany. She's trying to look out for my health. Give me that water.
We actually, this is no lie. Like, we actually use all these fucking sponsors that we talk about all the time. I drink one of these, and you and I both drink the same goddamn ones. I drank yours the other day, by the way.
Well,
sorry.
I've got a request for liquid IV, by the way, but you can buy it and use our code and get a
promo code Drinkin Bros 25% off. So feel free. But we had to hydrate for tonight because things are gonna get nasty, dude. Yeah. Dan's got 18 White Claws in front of him. I got some ranch water here. That's the new Texas jam. We're really leaning into the Texas vibe here now that we're here in Austin.
We're trying, yeah. I think so. Here's my request for liquid IV, by the way. Mm-hmm. She likes the passion fruit. I think it's one of them. Passion fruit, right? Yeah. And I like the lemon lime. This looks good for lemon lime, right?
Looks great.
But passion fruit looks exactly the same. Let's put a little food coloring in that so we can keep them separate.
Yeah, separate but equal. Because we're about equality on this show.
No, separate but equal is Plessy versus Ferguson. That was Jim Crow laws.
Got it. So that's not the right one.
No.
Okay, double checking. No. And that's for the execs at Liquid IV. Do not use separate but equal on your packaging labeling. Apologize for that, Liquid IV, but you can still use the promo code Drinkin Bros for 25% off. So here's what we're going to do here tonight, kids. We're going to go picture in picture with the debates, and we will have the volume on the debate so you can actually hear it and not really have to flip back and forth. We will keep our chatter at a minimum during the debate, but if Trump pops off a zinger, obviously, we'll chime in, and then throughout the commercial breaks, we'll stay with you and then kind of comment on what happened. For Biden, I almost would have, and this is no lie, I would have hired a comedy writer for tonight for at least like maybe 20 one-liners to keep on deck, where I think one should be for sure. Whatever the moderator, Chris Wallace, asked Trump, he says, well, that's the $750 question for the taxes thing. I think that would be a good one-liner for Joe, and I think that would score some points.
It would be funny. I mean, look, if you can demonstrate that you're quick, and by the way,
because that's what Trump is good at, by the way.
Comedians that are great at crowd work, one, they are very quick as people,
Yes.
right? They're quick-witted and stuff like that, but they've also been in that situation and prepared for it. And it's why people who, like athletes who do things or operators who do things, look like they're moving faster than what they should be able to because they know what's going to happen already.
Yeah.
Right? If you prepare for that stuff, I think it would be great. But his writing team so far, his communications department at large, have been fucking terrible.
Horrible.
Biden's has, I think it's because they're fundamentalists at this point, and fundamentalists never have a sense of irony. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why you see, like, the Daily Wire social media team is amazing.
Yeah, they're great.
Barstool social media team, amazing.
Yeah.
Both lean conservative. Well, the Daily Wire is fully conservative.
Yeah.
Babylon Bee,
Yep.
they lean conservative as well, and they're fucking clever as shit now. Where are the social media, or the media and social media outlets now that are liberal, that are clever and witty and fun to watch?
They're not, because they're all bitter and angry, and that does not create great comedy.
No, it's fundamentalism.
Yes.
Right?
And we also want to give a shout out to Barstool Sports. They wrote an article on our co-host Jared Taylor, who will be in the chat tonight. He's in San Antoine for writing the article about his directorial debut of the Dan Crenshaw campaign video. It's a movie trailer, essentially.
Basically,
and it's
what
amazing.
The author of the article from Barstool basically said the best movie of 2020 so far is Dan Crenshaw's new campaign video,
And it's true.
and it's amazing.
And at the end of it, no lie, they write bravo. They wrote take a bow, Jared Taylor.
Yeah.
I like how they spelled it Gerard Taylor. Like I always call him on the show. I don't know if they listen on a religious basis.
I know some of the
Probably.
guys do because we've met them in person and they know who we are. But I
Yeah.
don't know, like the social media people are not the same people as the personalities you know in public. Right.
Right.
Like I doubt Dave Portnoy is listening to any podcast because he's been on a bender for the last 4 months,
getting
living
rocked.
his best life.
Living his
I kind
best
of want to
life.
send him what's like a Super Bowl ring or something to memorialize him telling everybody, like, getting great deals, doing great business.
I can tell you what you would put on there. You could put on there the number 136.
Oh, yeah,
For
yeah.
how many millions of dollars
Penn,
he
yeah.
got for that deal.
For Penn, yeah.
And because right after he signed it, that's when he went on that bender. He's back now.
Yeah.
He's doing a show. He's also doing a NFL show with Deion Sanders.
Yeah, Deion's great on there, but I mean, Deion's great in
Deion's
general.
always great
Yeah.
in general, man. I
He's-
think NFL Network did not want to back up the truck to pay him after that contract expired, but good on Barstool. And then Deion's going to go on and coach Jackson State, which I've never heard of.
Deion is also like, people get the wrong idea about other human beings a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that whole phrase, don't judge a book by its cover. I've always challenged that because that's kind of what the cover is for, is to tell you what's inside the book.
Yeah.
But a lot of time, you know, you have to understand, and this is something that you have to teach veterans in business a lot because they're bad self-promoters for the most part. They just they do above average and they expect to do above average. Like in the 82nd Airborne, you to pass your PT test, I think it's like fucking 2 something, like in the low 2s, but the expectation is 270, right?
Yeah.
In that unit. And it's the same way for a lot of these guys when they get out. And they're just doing really well at stuff. And that's their expectation. So they have a hard time like, hey, man, I've had a great quarter this year. We added a lot of this, or we did that. Or it's weird to talk about yourself like that. That's one of the things that vets in business really need to fucking start learning.
Yeah.
Is to put yourself out there and promote yourself a little more. Because
It's hard, man, because
It is,
you feel awkward with it, man, promoting
Yeah.
yourself and glad-handing yourself, especially as a veteran. Like, dude, all of my best friends at this point are veterans, and
Yeah.
it's like you guys are always so selfless,
Right.
whereas in business you have to be selfish
Right.
and promote yourself
But
and jam yourself out there.
It's one of those things, right? If you're in a business or you have an organization or a company or whatever it happens to be, or just an idea where you feel genuinely like it's the right thing and it's going to help people, right? And that's what Jared started all of this for,
Right.
Is so nobody ever had to drink alone again. So, you know, if you feel like that's like you've got the right solution to something, you've got to get out there and tell people about it. right? You have to go try to make more money so you can influence more people. That's how you do that. You can't. It's kind of a more positive take on that biblical phrase about getting the piece of lumber or whatever the fuck out of your eye before you take the
baby out of the bathwater.
No, like the pick or whatever, the little splinter out of somebody else's eye.
Yeah.
Right? Like clear your own shit up first, right? But I think there's a positive spin on that too, where if you really want to help other people, you have to you have to be out there. You have to be boisterous. And these days we've gotten a lot luckier because you don't have to fucking be that. You don't have to be everything all at once. Like people like us can meet. And Jared and people like that have different qualities and come together. Now,
different backgrounds in life.
Dion's kind of a fucking one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Like he is a genuinely kind dude that's made a career out of doing a lot of charitable work and being kind, giving back to the community and children and all this other stuff. But he's also a cocky asshole. Yeah. Right? That's what I've always loved about him.
Big fan. Big fan. We're 5 minutes away from the debate. Again, we will go picture in picture. Giorgio has it up now.
We're all quit lying these people. We are 8 minutes and 30 seconds away from this debate.
8 minutes and 30 seconds away. So
can't do math.
Well, I got a different time on my iPhone or whatever.
We forgot Rostradamus is in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck you, Steve Jobs. You couldn't even do this correctly. What did that guy actually do? If you have any notes as far as volume goes during the show, Giorgio is in the chat, and he will answer your questions. I want to give a shout-out to AJ Gamble, who is back in the chat. He's usually with us every single day. His younger brother passed away. And it's great to see you back in here, AJ. We've all been thinking about you. And that text you posted from him the other day in Drinkin Bros was fucking hilarious, dude. Seems like a great guy. Welcome back, AJ. We're proud to have you. Again, we will have this picture-in-picture. As soon as the debate starts, we will turn up the volume of it. And if there is any notes, Papa Giorgio is here, and he will be following along. We got some fan faves here. Jessie is here partying, spilling wine all over herself today. Proud of you, Jabes. Tiffany Hart is here. There's a bunch of new Drinkin Broettes episodes that are popping out of the vagina hole next week. And they might pop in and bring some food over at some point. Who knows? We don't know. It's live. Shit's going to go down tonight. No, I'm good on food, but D'Anthony might need some food here.
Oh, no, I'm good. I've got all of this to take
all of the things here tonight. Our buddy Xander Pappas is here tonight.
Big Xander in the building, everybody.
Big Xander in the building, everybody. He's waving to a non-existent crowd. And we're here at the new studios in Austin, Texas. It is great to be here, actually. I forgot how much I miss Texas until you drive around at night during the sunset and you get to see all the shit. And you're like, all right, cool, man. I'm in a state again with hills and trees and excitement and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw the picture I posted on Instagram just today.
Yeah.
But it's like just over my shoulder out the window, basically, and it's
your view is disgusting, by the way, downtown.
Yeah. It's like on the right side, looking out my place, it's the skyline of Austin.
Yep.
And on the left side, it's west, and it's the hills going towards all the parks that go through just south of the river. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. Itamashi just gave us $7.77 for Jabes and Tiffers to get drunk and hijack the show. Look, if we get $1,000 from somebody, I think we could probably get one of them to come out and do a JOI during a commercial break. You know, one of those jerk-off instruction videos.
We know all of you want that. Let's go. Let's get in this chat, guys.
If you were to get a JOI, a jerk-off instruction...
Morgan Freeman is who I want it from.
Okay, and would it be like more sensual or more aggressive?
I don't like the ones where they talk down to you.
Not down, but telling you what to do.
Yeah. Telling you what to do. But there's a lot of them where people love it when you're like, oh, look at you. You small dick little fucker. I bet you can't do anything. But you can't do anything with that. And it's like, all right, cool. AJ Gamble just popped in for $5 and said, hey, a Men's Warehouse JOI would be great.
Ooh,
oh, my God.
Jared Taylor's in the chat, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I like the way you touch yourself.
Yeah, you're going to like the way you touch yourself. I guarantee it.
I can see that, though, because he's out of a job now. He got kicked off the board and then...
And then they went bankrupt. Men's Warehouse going bankrupt. I like how all the suit companies are going bankrupt because everybody's at home in their pajamas on Zoom, and commercial real estate is going into the fucking shitter now because no one's going to go back to their offices ever again. We've heard rumors that they might shut down New York. You and I were on a conference call on Sunday with somebody from New York, and I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. London might go under a lockdown. There might not be a need to ever wear a suit again the rest of your lives if this keeps going.
I think we should, look, let's dress for the job we want at this point. This is the first time, for real, this is the first time, and maybe in American history, where pretty much the vast majority of people have the opportunity to safely dress for the job they want.
Yeah.
Here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to fucking tag us in pictures on Instagram and Facebook of yourself at home dressed for the job you want.
For the job you want. Look at Ivanka. Ivanka, you can never have too many cutaways of Ivanka. They're going to cutaways of the entire Trump family. Cade Magnum said, yeah, I like the way you touched yourself. That's it. Oh, Men's Warehouse style. Eric Trump had a gaffe this morning where it appeared that he came out as gay. He was talking about the LGBTQ plus ally community. Am I saying all the right letters? Am I forgetting any letters in the alphabet?
I think so. I'm just
TI
really concerned about the
plus
cameraman from them.
TI.
And I think that symbol that used to represent Prince.
Yeah, Prince
one
is
of them
now
there.
one of those. But he was talking about the community in regards to the new Supreme Court replacement for RBG, which is going to be ACB, Amy Coney Barrett, and said, I know about the LGBT community because I'm one of them. And that was live on air today, and a lot of people were like, wait a minute, we've seen your hot wife a million times. Melania's there, and she's got a mask on. So one of the first bets tonight on mybookie.com, promo code Drinkin Bros doubles your deposits, was will Trump come out wearing a mask, and will Biden come out wearing a mask?
Right.
I said
Biden for sure.
I said Biden, yes, and I said Trump, no. So we'll find out
We'll
what that is.
see. Yeah. I mean, look, I assume they're going to be socially distanced. Usually, even during any debate.
So they are. So they
have
pan
been,
to the
right?
crowd, and they are socially distanced. But Ivanka hates Melania. Anyways.
No, I'm not talking about the crowd. I'm talking about the two candidates.
Correct.
Like,
and they're also
on
not
stage.
going to. So they're not going to shake hands tonight. They're not going to elbow. They're not going to do any of the 4 minutes glad handing that they usually do. They're going to get down to business. Another one of the bets tonight was the color of the tie, Dan. The odds-on favorite for Biden was blue, and Trump's was red tonight.
That's an easy.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
But then somebody showed us pictures where Trump was wearing a blue tie last month, and I was like, I don't know. We'll see.
Not at this kind of event.
Yeah. We'll see. Where did you ladies go? So you got some Asian fusion for the debate tonight? Look at that. I'm good on food. I appreciate it. We're getting ready. For those of you who are watching the pregame, and yes, I'm going to call it a pregame on
Oh, you
this.
said Neeksta's coming? Nice.
Who's that?
Neeksta, Takiera. It's the place we went to last year.
Shit.
I mean, I've been there a bunch, but you've only
Yes,
been there the one time.
and then the homeboy's going to do, Franklin is going to do one of the nights there for the guest chef, right?
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, on October 1st.
I mean, Neeksta's another place.
I read your post.
Where a guy was trying to make a living and do good stuff in California, and he finally was just like, "Fuck this." Came to Austin, and now he's got the best taqueria in all of the city.
The
It's
food
amazing.
here is fantastic, by
Yeah.
the way. We missed that in Wilmington. We are moments
That's the
away
only thing
from
I
the
didn't like
debates.
about Wilmington is the lack of
food?
food options. Like, it's a great city if they just had more restaurants, but they don't. So
Yeah.
like here, I eat sushi 4 nights a week.
Yes, and the sushi is great here.
It's really good. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, most of the fish either comes direct daily from
The Gulf?
the Pacific Northwest, or it comes like hourly, every like 12 hours from the Gulf.
No
right?
shit.
They have 2 a day typically for the sushi grade stuff. So it's very good.
Everybody's in the chat tonight, dude. All of our faves. Big Dick in office here. Brooke is here. She says, "What up, Jesse?" Brooke is in the chat. The Hawk is in the chat. Itamashi's in here. Brian G. DC Cherry's in here. Greg LaMontagne. All of our faves are in here. They're darkening the lights, folks. This really does feel like a fucking heavyweight fight for some reason. They were following the cars on the way in. The prompter is on. Game time, Giorgio. Put a little volume on here. Chris Matthews is stretching out his beak. I wonder if he knows he's live right now. There's sometimes where our mic is hot and we don't really know.
Not Chris Matthews, though. It's Christopher Wallace.
Christopher Wallace, I'm sorry.
Chris Matthews is that other bitch.
Correct. Chris Wallace.
I used to really like Chris
From the
Matthews.
Health
There we go.
Education Campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The Commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments.
This is a missionary
with
fuck
2-minute
for this
answers
guy.
from
He folds
each
it in half.
candidate to the first question.
He has to.
Then open discussion for the rest of
We're
each
live
segment.
on YouTube.
Both campaigns
Join
have
us.
agreed to these rules. For the record,
We're live on
I decided
YouTube.
the
Join
topic
us, kids.
and the questions
We're making
in
some
each
Instagram
topic.
stories here
I can
while
assure you,
Homeboy
none
talks
of the
his
questions
bullshit.
has been shared with the Commission or the two candidates. This debate is being conducted.
Do you believe
under
that
health
none of
and
these questions
safety
have been shared, by the way,
protocols
Dan?
designed
No,
by the
I don't either.
Cleveland Clinic.
I think somebody
which
got
is
him.
serving as
And
the
that certain
health
someone is
security
probably Joe
advisor
Biden.
to the Commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed
Keegs
that
McKeague
candidates
says it feels like
will
McGregor
not
Mayweather
shake
fight. I
hands at the
agree.
beginning
That was one of the most
tonight's debate.
exciting run-ups
The
to a
audience
fight,
here in
and
the hall has promised
that's
to
what this
remain
definitely
silent.
feels like
No
tonight.
cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus
That's
on what
right.
the
There is no
candidates
crowd
have to
tonight.
say. No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee,
we
President
go.
Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
We'll see what ties they're wearing.
DJT, here's the first bet of the night. What is he? Oh,
Red
he's
and blue.
mixed. Red and blue.
Get fucked, losers. He probably looked on my bookie before the thing.
He had to. So that's going to be a no-winner.
Yeah.
What's
That's a push.
What's Biden wearing?
I can't see Biden. Oh, it's like silver and blue, maybe?
Yeah.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time, even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this, and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is, and that say occurs when they vote for United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now.
Whoops.
If they
Except for that
it goes into
executive
court.
order he signed where you can't lose
And,
your shit.
The justice,
Sorry.
and I have nothing, I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February. All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years.
The
And the
election's
100
already
million
started.
people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist.
Go
You're
ahead.
going to
This-
socialist medicine.
We're now into.
There we
gentlemen,
go.
we're now
By the
into
way,
open discussion.
we got
Open
into
discussion.
this
Yes, I agree.
during
Go ahead, Vice President.
Number one,
in the 2012 to 2014
he
period,
knows that what I
everybody
proposed.
found out that
What I
Obama
proposed
was
is
lying
that,
when he said
we
you wouldn't lose your
expand
insurance,
Obamacare,
by the way.
and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your
is-
party has said.
that is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your
That
party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact,
Gloves are
approved of. What I approved of. Now,
Wow.
here's the deal.
Did you
The deal is
Biden
that
just
it's
said
going to
that.
wipe out
Holy
pre-existing
shit.
conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing conditions?
308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200. It would
Yeah.
be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which was heavily
Mr. President,
Just
You
let
would
him
have been
go.
much
President,
later,
Just let him
Joe.
go.
Much
Shut up.
later.
Mr. President.
You're talking about 2 million people.
You're not gonna be able to
President, as
shut
the
him up.
moderator, we were going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court.
He's never said that.
And so
Never.
that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's on the
begun.
ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is
you
it on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Docket is the
Donald,
word
we-
he's
And
looking
you don't
for.
know
for me.
her view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't
don't
know her
know.
view.
Well, all right. Let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So, on health care.
Chris Wallace
and
is a
then
pro,
we'll come
by
back
the way.
to
I
Roe
like
v.
that guy.
Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well,
I got rid of the individual mandate.
I'm going to give you an opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of
comprehensive
That
plan.
is absolutely a big thing. That was the
I
worst part of
didn't ask you,
Obamacare.
sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part
me.
of Obamacare.
Let me ask my
Well,
question.
I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of Obamacare. I got rid of it.
I'd like you
and we
to,
will protect
Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your
ahead.
question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Fine. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something. That there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm
Even
going
Wallace
with favored
laughed at
nations,
that.
which no president has the courage to do because you're going against Big Pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
What about
All of the
pre-existing
things that
conditions?
we've done,
He has not cut
insulin. I
healthcare.
give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water. You want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all
He
of
is
the
such a
drugs
fucking
that what
dummy.
we're doing. Prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because
When in
they
fact-
pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say,
of
this
what
is
we do.
open discussion.
No,
let
but
me
this
ask
is
you about,
big.
you'll
This
be
is
happy,
big stuff.
sir. You'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
will, if I can
sorry.
ask you the question, it will
Not
end
what your party says, by the way.
it will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option. Number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie Sanders, who's far left, on the manifesto,
When
we
you-
call it.
when
And that
manifest-
gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
you
going to
didn't
listen to
agree?
him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left 2 days earlier
man.
every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going
That
to
was a
make
good
sure
one.
because
With what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie.
Here's the
I'm not
deal.
here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree.
want to
Hey,
make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish?
This
sir?
is a
doesn't
train
know how
wreck
to do
that
that.
I am here for.
He
Loving
has-
it.
You'd be
You know,
surprised.
you picked
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy,
Go,
the
go,
wrong
Joe,
night at
go.
the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Now
let
you're
him-
disavowing it.
There
Go ahead.
is no manifesto. Number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
that's absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you
to,
have
and
any
under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
Medicare.
you
Mr.
have any
President.
do?
Socialized medicine.
Mr.
Wow.
I'll
President.
tell you what. He is not for any help for people needing health care because
Bernie?
because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two,
yeah.
there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them better health care at a much lower price because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to
Are
an
they trying
extent.
to cut
He
his
has
mic?
never
That's what it
Obamacare,
sounds like.
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but
Yeah,
probably
at least
doesn't.
we know the president's
Gentlemen,
Obamacare
you
is
realize
no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time.
and it's too expensive.
Let the presidents go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, that they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
and I
known for.
just had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive.
I got you.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
peop- that's
So
what his people
we
said.
do want to
No,
get
no.
rid of it.
It's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it.
I
We
understand
have an
it's
hour
but
and
I have
20
to, I have
minutes
to give
left,
you
and
roughly
this has
equal
gone
time.
this fucking
Please
crazy.
Yeah, we're just
let
getting started
the
here,
Vice
folks.
President talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care. Of
course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I have
against
one final question for you.
Sure.
This is great,
Mr.
Daniel
Vice
Munchler.
President.
I'm a big fan
If
of this
Senate
so far.
Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here. If Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how
Are you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel.
court?
Vote now.
gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't wanna
you're a
answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a lot of
is the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is your,
up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This is on your list.
Gentlemen,
Yeah.
I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the
unpresidential.
court.
We have
We're
ended.
not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully
Loving it.
serious subject. So let's try to be serious
This is
about
as
it.
good as
We
it
have
gets
had
in television
more
right
than
now.
7 million cases
getting
of
rich on my monkey.
coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck.
Uninterrupted, yeah.
200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You
That's what
don't
you should
panic.
do.
Yes,
he panicked.
it is,
In
by the
addition
way.
to that, what did he do? He went in and he We were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was.
China virus is
He
coming
did not
soon, by the
even
way.
ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan.
Wrong.
I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
his 2
March
minutes.
exactly
it's so
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval
you
Office
fucked
and
that
bring
one up.
together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
I don't think he wanted to
So
say
if
bunker
we
right
would
there.
have listened
Wait,
to
wait,
you,
you have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should
unrelated
have
to
closed
your
our country.
COVID.
No,
Wait a
sir,
minute.
It's his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
Yes.
I know how to do the
Kringleberry.
job.
This is awesome.
I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do
done.
very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very-
economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There was
wait, no,
less
there was no
lethal
recession.
disease,
you made
by
a
the way.
point. Let him answer it.
And there was we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down.
Oh,
the reason
boy.
it shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
And,
you would have been
and by the way,
months late.
your own,
You were
his
months behind me,
his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen,
then-
let me move on to questions about the future because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call
So
him
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what
that
I call
the
him.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slawi?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He said
Dr.
it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking
after
about when it's
that.
generally available. not when it
Well,
will
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up logistically. They're all set up.
Defense
we have
Production
our
Act.
military that
Yeah.
delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This is
delivering
the
the
same
vaccine.
man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same man.
was said sarcastically, and you know that. That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine sooner
I want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't, or
knows.
Senator
And-
Harris is saying
no,
you can't trust the scientists.
No. You can't trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She
the
said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists. There's thousands of scientists out there,
Millions
like here
of
at this
scientists.
great hospital,
Literally
that don't
thousands.
work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him.
Idiots.
That's not. They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and Fauci,
scientists that are in charge.
By the way,
they will have
and
the vaccine very
does-
soon.
Let him finish.
do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market, one of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died. And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Stock
Mr.
market is
President?
actually
Did you
doing
use the
great,
word
but-
smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done nothing.
Well, let's have this debate.
And if
We'll
you
see
would have
who's
had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
see,
and
he-
it's
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
Look forward to talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you
Biden's
ends
gotten
up becoming
quieter.
the next
It's almost
president.
a new
I want
drug
to quickly
kicked
go
in, like
through
some-
several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you
Some
have been
form of
much more
Adderall.
reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
The-
Nancy
the-
Pelosi. And Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with him in the
Okay.
Senate.
Let
And he sits on his golf course. And well, I mean, literally,
Okay.
think about it.
You probably play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact
Well, he wants to shut down this country, and I want to keep it open. And we
You
did
ju-
a great
he
thing
just
by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second. Just for 1 second. We want to. He wants to shut down the country.
Oh,
We just
man.
went through it. We
So
had to because
stupid.
we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another
because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to
thing.
another
I've
subject.
got to respond.
But those states are not doing well that are shut down
Which is
right
got to
now.
respond to that.
Wants to
President
shut down
Trump,
the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay.
of
You have
masks?
to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say this.
Vice President Biden, go ahead,
Oh
sir.
my God.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've
And
also said the opposite.
no serious person said the opposite.
From February
No,
to now,
well,
200,000
Dr.
people died.
Fauci.
Yeah.
Dr.
We're
Fauci
expecting
said the
200,000
opposite.
I
more.
want to
say
ask
the
you, we got a
Said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good.
I
I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both
masks.
about one last subject, because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
Because nobody will show up.
people with.
It's true. Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
and
not worried
hangars,
about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issue,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours' notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
Yes, sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've
Come
had
on.
no negative effect. And we've had 35,000, 40,000
All right. Do you
people
want
at
to
these rallies.
just
Yes.
quickly finish up, because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy? Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Jesus
The
Christ.
economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we
He didn't
closed
say
it
virus.
down, which
No.
was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening at some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair.
Yeah,
You're
we came
talking
from
about
North
almost
Carolina,
it's
and
like
that
being in
fucker's
prison.
still
And you
shut.
look at what's going on with divorce. Look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery.
That's
What's
not
the
a thing.
difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's his
wrong statement.
Yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right.
You can't
Your time
shut
is
down
up,
the
sir.
country.
We are going to get to...
I have to respond to that.
He doesn't have the
You both have
constitutional
2 minutes,
authority
sir.
to shut down the
Excuse
states.
me, he
The
made a
governors do
statement.
that.
So did you.
People want their schools. No, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives.
People
They'll
want
be
to be
careful,
safe.
but they want their schools open.
People
want
I'm
to
the
be
one that
safe.
brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football.
Yeah,
It was
baby!
me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
All right,
people of
let's-
Ohio are very proud of
Oh,
me.
there it
I
is.
am!
Get back-
Ohio
Mr.
State,
Gentleman, we're
baby!
gonna get to your economic plans
That's a
going
good
forward in a moment.
communications
But first,
department
Mr.
right there.
President,
That's
as you
how
well
it's
know,
done.
there's a new report that in
Go Bucks.
2016, the year you were elected
Unbelievable.
president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a
There we go.
year in federal income tax
I was waiting for
each
it.
of those years.
It's a good question.
It is.
I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, There was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to do, go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under-leveraged because the assets are extremely good. And we have a very, I built
Sir,
a great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is.
let me tell you.
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all of
return.
that.
But let me-
No, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much
Good
you
job,
paid
Wallace.
in federal
Yeah.
income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750?
Millions of dollars. And you'll get to see it. And you'll get to
When?
see it. But let me just
Inshallah?
tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration,
It's
if you
true,
can
it was.
believe that. Now, the man got fired
no,
right after that happened. But
Vice
that's
President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you
Why
weren't
Why
president.
didn't you do it over
Because
the
you
last
weren't
25
president
years? No,
screwing
no,
things
no, no.
up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe.
There it
We've
is.
done things that you never even thought of doing,
Okay,
including
gentlemen.
fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of
we're
your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be
Yes,
elected
ma'am.
president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year
Yeah,
and
Daniel,
on
Amazon
corporations.
and Google don't pay
President
taxes.
Trump says
Yeah,
that
or
kind of an
Facebook.
increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one.
How?
And number
We had the
two,
lowest unemployment
it would
rate in
create
history.
an additional $1 trillion in economic
economy is
growth
one
because
thing
it
you
would
can't
be
get 'em on.
about buying American. That we're going to make the federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company
But
in
respectfully,
America.
sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when you
dollars.
were vice
They don't pay.
president with Obama?
They don't pay.
Because you,
I'm sorry.
in
They don't
fact,
pay
passed that.
these federal
That was
taxes.
your
I got
tax
it.
proposal.
I got
They're
it
still
done. And
paying
you know what
other
happened?
taxes.
You got it done.
Our economy boomed
And,
like it's never boomed
The economy
before.
is
Mr.
busted.
President,
let me
wait,
finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for the American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery
That's a
since
pretty good burn on
1929.
Bush
Let me
right
tell you
there.
about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks.
Yep.
If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice
inherited
The one
the
thing
worst recession
that's true,
short of a
what he's saying.
depression in
Yep.
American history.
This is
I was
true.
asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
he blew
booming.
it. He blew it.
It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery
Well, sir, is it
since
fair to, wait,
1929.
is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact,
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
We're not a manufacturing
Number one.
economy
Number
anymore.
two.
We're a
Number
service and
three.
They
information
said it
economy,
would
you
take-
fucking
no,
dope.
you're number two.
No.
Jesus
Chris,
Christ, man.
They said it would
This
take
guy.
a miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of my
not bring it.
standard fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
industry.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going
Ohio
after
had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having
And they
Mr.
didn't
Vice-
come
wait,
in
wait,
with you.
Mr. Vice President.
Zuna Starker,
And so
the
you
company
take
that
a
makes
look
all
at
the
what he's
mufflers for
actually
BMW,
done.
moved
He's
back
done
stateside.
very little. His
just
trade
talked about
deals
the
are
other
the
day.
same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch, down
All right, gentlemen,
18%.
in-
China ate your lunch, Joe, and
but-
no wonder your son goes in and he takes out.
There he is.
He takes out billions of dollars. Takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at
true.
it, why is it, just out of
It's
curiosity,
demonstrably true.
the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
That's
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma
none
to
of that-
deserve
Wait,
That is absolutely true.
$183,000?
By the way.
None
You've
of
asked
that
your
is
question,
true.
let him answer.
None of that is true. It's
Oh, really?
been
He didn't
totally
get
But no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President.
That is absolutely
Mr.
true.
President, please.
totally
ask the question.
discredited. Totally discredited.
No, it's
and by
not.
the
What
way,
the fuck
Well,
is
wait,
he
he didn't
talking
get
about?
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5
President,
million.
Get him on
it
record.
is not true.
Oh,
Here's-
really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
But, Mr.
it's an open discussion, please.
Now,
It's a fact.
Well,
There's- it
you
is
have
not a
raised an
fact.
issue. Let the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
no
my
job?
son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he
and
did.
Mr.
the only
President,
guy that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And
The media?
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
Certainly not by the World Bank.
by everyone.
No.
As discredited.
You can
Matter of
see- you
fact-
can see
Matter
the-
of fact,
Mr.
even the people
President,
who
if you go to the
New York
testified
Post, you can see
under
this.
oath.
Yeah.
So
There's
let
an
me ask you this.
87-page
Under
No, no,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
Republicans.
you.
People under,
He got $3.5
he
million from
testified-
Moscow.
he
From a
testified
Moscow
under
billionaire
oath that
tied
his
to
administration
Putin, by the
said,
way.
I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd like to
honorably.
know who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
some people don't
well,
do a good
here's
job. With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say-
You get
here's
the,
the
wait a
deal.
minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
tell you.
No. Mr. President.
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply.
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
No, let him go.
my family
already
lost
wrote-
a fortune by
Go
coming down
ahead.
and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's
Every-
such a
they're right
that's
here.
a-
Mr.
that's
President.
such a
Every
great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
by
President.
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us
family.
with
It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect
people.
$3.5 million.
That's what he should have
doesn't-
said in
That's
the
not
first
true.
place.
It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
you
here.
should
All right,
Not
that's the
about
end.
here.
That's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No,
He
I-
stood up.
No,
he stood up,
the answer to
and
the
he
question is no.
threatened Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion,
Sir,
if you don't
that
get rid of
is
the
absolutely
you know what, you're-
not
stop.
You're on
true.
tape doing it.
You're going to
You're on
have
tape.
True.
Gentlemen,
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but I
on
see it seems
tape.
to be, why shouldn't I be different than the two of you? So here's the deal. We have six segments.
This is
We
that
have
part
ended that
in,
segment. We're going to
in,
go to the next segment.
Goodfellas,
in that segment,
where he tips
you
the
each
guy
are
that
going to have
played
two
Chris Moltisanti
uninterrupted
later
moments.
for
In
talking
those
shit
two
to Joe
uninterrupted
Pesci.
minutes, Mr.
Then
President,
Pesci
you can
shot
say
him,
anything you
I'm
want.
surprised there's no commercial
I'm
breaks.
going to ask a question about
Not
race,
yet.
but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less than, no, less than you have.
He's such a
please
troll,
continue
man.
on.
Jesus Christ.
The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides,
it was one of the
what
bets.
directly led you
This is a good
to
opportunity for
launch
Trump
this
to
run for
clarify that, by
president.
the way.
Yeah.
Sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you
possible
is
exception.
why should voters trust you rather than your opponent
He's the
to
Ricky
deal with the
Henderson of
race issues
presidents.
facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about
Oh, boy.
equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides.
There were,
no
yeah.
president has ever
Finish
said
the
anything
statement.
like that.
Of course they have.
It is who's
Now,
2
second-
minutes, sir.
First of all, most
Second point
presidents
I'd make
before the 1950s
is
said the
that
N-word out
when
loud.
Yeah.
Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible.
Also not
and
true.
then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans.
Humans can't hear dog whistles.
1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done
Bring up the
virtually
crime
nothing.
bill, Trump.
Look,
What are you doing,
the fact
buddy?
is that
The
you have
lowest
to look at
unemployment
what
rate
he's
for
talking
African
about.
No, fuck that.
You
Bring up
have
the
to
crime
look
bill
at
right
what
now.
he did, and what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
he
racism?
did a crime bill, 1994.
Nailed it.
Where you call them super predators, African Americans.
Well, that was
super
Hillary
predators,
Clinton that
and
said
they've never
super predators.
forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did
Hillary
that,
Clinton
and they
said
call
super
you
predators,
super
by the way.
predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because You know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race.
That was a
Vice
mistake
President
by
Biden,
Trump.
after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case, decided not to charge any of the police with homicide. You said it raises the question, quote,
we'll see if he
whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of a town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place, and you say peaceful protest?
President Trump,
no, it's
I'm not
not,
asking,
but you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race. I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody else.
Radical,
and he would know.
What is radical about racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and, frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Surprised he answered that.
He's the racist.
You just don't know.
Here's the deal.
He's the racist.
Let him finish.
Two old white dudes calling each other racist.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know. They don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. there was hatred. You look at
Chicago.
Ferguson.
Yep.
You look at you go to very many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but the
Lord.
reason
This
is
is
that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime-
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are
it
you in
and a little
favor
bit
of law and order? Go
yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
Law
He'll
and
lose-
order.
he'll lose his
Law
left.
and
Let
order.
him- let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more
he
in
had-
ours.
All right, we're
He
now.
is president of
Mr.
the
President,
United
you're going
States
to
of
China,
America.
we
Mr.
were
President,
breaking every
you're-
record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because
And the
we're now going to talk
excuse me,
about law and
places
order.
we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly
states.
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic
Jacobson,
increase in
Patterson, Holloway,
homicides in
2024.
America
Could be
this
possible.
summer particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really
Tulsa?
a party issue?
Fort Worth.
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died, shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime.
Republican
It is
cities.
crazy what's going on.
No, New York
and he
City is
doesn't want to say
Democrat.
law and
It's
order because he
Blasio.
can't, because
It's
he'll
Blasio.
lose
What is
his
he
radical
talking
left
about?
supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have
We would
our
run it
suburbs
the
would
way-
be gone. By the way,
Suburbs.
our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've
He
never
would
seen.
know a
before.
suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would
so
not.
much
I was
better.
raised.
Go ahead.
I was,
Big
I was
league
raised in the
suburbs.
suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and/or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean?
great
And
question.
do you support?
It means
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean? And do you support the Black Lives Matter
Movement.
call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police offices. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what
in
they're
prevent-
talking about, Chris. That's not what
that-
they're talking about.
that's
He's talking about
exactly-
defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law
Would you-
support.
look,
He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
no,
anything.
Oh,
Name
man.
one law enforcement group that came out and
I
supported
think, gentlemen,
you,
I think
Joe.
I'm going to take back the
There aren't.
moderator's
I don't
role,
think there
and
are any.
I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities
Wallace
that have
needs a
turned
drink
violent. In
tonight.
Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests,
really
which I
funny.
think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those
was
turned
good.
into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, Have you ever called the Democratic mayor of
Nice
Portland
callback.
or the
There you
Democratic
go.
governor of Oregon and said,
Wallace is trying his
hey,
best
you
tonight.
got to stop
He's a
this,
pretty
bring in
moderate
the
guy.
National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you'd stop the days and months of
Wallace
violence
is a lot like Shepard
in
Smith, but he
Portland.
doesn't suck dicks.
I don't hold public office now.
Very true.
Well, that
I
we know
am
of.
a former vice president. I've made it clear. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it
But
should
you've
be
never
prosecuted.
called for the people,
He's never
the
said
leader. Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to call
Because
bring in
they-
the National Guard and knock
Well,
off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Here,
Oh, really?
here's the thing.
I sent in the
wait, I
U.S.
asked him a
Marshals to
question.
get the killer
No,
of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and for 3
Mr.
days,
President Trump,
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything. I
please
had to send
interrupt
in
and-
the U.S. Marshals.
President
They
Trump,
took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, you know, his own former spokesperson said,
What the
you know,
fuck?
riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that.
I don't-
And so here's the
All right.
But here's the point.
Go
The
ahead,
point
sir.
is that that's what he is keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly,
And-
every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly
Well, wait,
criticized.
I have to answer his
No,
statement.
you have
His statement.
repeatedly.
Wait,
you have
just one
no.
second.
You've been talking
He
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would
no,
love to
you know,
end it.
sir.
I would love to end it, and
You
we
know, if
would-
you want to switch seats,
We would
could
very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd
I'm
send
no,
in
I-
the National Guard. It would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay,
but they
good.
don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist
There we go.
groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared to
do
specifically
that, but
do it?
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
what are you-
If
what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists
Who
and
would
right
you like me to condemn?
white
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a
the threat
left-wing
from
Go ahead,
problem.
white
Go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you gotta be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what
Oh, really?
his
It's an idea.
FBI, his
Okay.
FBI
Antifa
director
is
said.
an
Well, then
idea.
you know what?
No, we're done, sir. We're moving
Everybody-
on to the next.
everybody
We're
gives
When
moving.
a
you
bat
advice
hits
in
you
your
over the head, that's
administration.
not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is bad.
administration tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas that are
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen, we're
group.
now moving on to the Trump
And
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record.
Correct.
But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. a fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges, it's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Is this the
Under
last
this
question
president,
tonight?
we
It
become
seems like
weaker,
We're getting
sicker,
close.
poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused a recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head-to-head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
And by the way, my son...
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can you add
No,
back
I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yes,
Okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah, you
Hunter
know
got
Bo.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
for
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use,
Other than
and he didn't have a job
For
until you
cocaine
became
use? Is that
vice
true?
president. And once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made a
son-
fortune.
My son,
and he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why
I'm
was he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right.
But he
dollars?
wasn't given
All right.
tens of
He was
millions of
given
dollars. That
tens
is
of
totally,
millions of
that's been
dollars.
totally
President Trump,
discredited.
we've already been
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American
didn't
people
know
would
that.
rather
He was
hear
doing,
about more
yayo.
substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a
I know, but when
judgment call
somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay, right.
from the
Let's
mayor
talk
of
about-
Moscow,
let's talk
That is
about-
not
I think
true.
it's a terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
you know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires
Anything
in the
else,
West are
please.
raging now. They have burned
what he
millions of
just said.
acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, You have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe
burns.
about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the billion tree project, and it's very
You
exciting.
believe
for a lot of people.
that human
Jesus Christ.
pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests.
By the way,
year,
700
I get the call,
gigatons of carbon are
California's
produced
burning.
each year
California
naturally.
is burning.
We produce
if
about
that
30.
was cleaned, if that were,
But it might be the
if you
30
had
that
forest
breaks the
management,
camel's
good
back, right?
Forest
Right.
management,
So it's a good debate.
You wouldn't be getting those calls.
Right.
You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a
Alex
major country.
Scarlatos is running on
it's
this,
a
actually.
forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
That's burning down because of a lack of
But,
management.
sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, they've simply
No, but you
ignored
would take
your
a lot of cars
rollback.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And, and I'm okay with electric cars, too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says
Shout out to
a
Texas,
lot
by
of
the way. Our
these
gas is
things
$1.79
would tank the
here,
economy
and I
and
love
cost
it.
millions
Seriously,
of
when I was
jobs.
dropping
absolutely
Brittany off at
wrong,
the airport
number one.
Sunday,
Number two,
I was like, this
if
is
in
the gas
fact,
station
when-
next to the
when our-
airport.
during our
It's
administration,
$1.80
Recovery
right
Act,
here.
I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America.
That doesn't mean they
They're
don't
gonna
still
move
exist,
to
Joe.
renewable energy, number
They
one.
still exist
Number
right
two,
now, and people
we're
need
gonna
those
make
jobs,
sure that we are
asshole.
able to take the federal fleet and turn it
Jesus
into
Christ.
a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage. By having a new infrastructure that, in fact, is
What's a
green.
prevailing wage?
And the first thing I will do,
Prevailing
I will
is,
rejoin the
where you
Paris
can live a
Accord.
comfortable
I will
life.
join the Paris Accord because with
Right.
us out of it,
What
look
number
what's
is that?
happening. It's all falling apart.
Depends on where you
Talk
live in the
about
country.
someone who has
Gotcha.
no relationship with foreign
Like in
policy.
California, it's somewhere
Brazil, the
between $85,000 and
rainforests of Brazil are being torn
right?
down,
In
are
some
being
places.
ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically
He
says
just made a
that you
really
have
big
to
mistake
balance
right there, and I'll explain why later.
environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, make sure that he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is the guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down
Go for a
buildings
minute, and then you can go.
and rebuild the building.
No,
It's the
that is
dumbest,
not-
most
that
ridiculous.
is not
where
the
airplanes are out of
Wait a minute, sir.
business,
That's
where two-car systems are out, where they
Not
want
true.
to take out the cows too.
Not
That's
true.
not true either, right?
Not
this is
true.
a 100
bag.
trillion.
Look,
That's
Yeah.
more money than
That
our
is-
country could make in
that is
100
simply
years if we're
not
going by
the case.
All right, let
It will
me
destroy our
because I
country.
actually, wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good
100
paying
trillion.
jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
He's already done it,
The
dum-dum.
fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that
That's
at all.
he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up a lot of things.
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now, on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get
They will
back
never do
into
it, and that's the
back
problem.
into
China and
the
India will
Paris
never do
Accord.
it.
All right, gentlemen,
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You
Yeah.
were vice
For
president. Why didn't
47
you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way,
China and India are
he made
responsible
a
for about
couple of
83%
statements.
of the entire
Green New
world's
Deal
pollution,
is
by the way.
$100 trillion.
That is
not
not
20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
The Green
well,
New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is not
building.
my plan.
You want to
All right,
rebuild
all right.
every.
If he knew
You have to-
anything
wait, no, no,
about,
wait.
if he
Gentlemen,
knew
He
anything
made a
about,
statement
Gentlemen-
about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
There it is.
He
There's
said
the swear word.
stupid
Please,
bastards. He said it.
stop.
I
I
got
would
it.
never
I
say
would
that.
play
Stop.
it. Play it.
Go ahead.
You're
Mr.
on
Vice
tape.
President answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and
I
about
love-
this question
I love
of
Chris
what it's going
Wallace.
to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your
the
environmental
Green New
changes
Deal-
will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
Could you
We're going to
support
build
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support
No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
You don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just
Biden.
lost the radical left.
I
Oh,
support
you
the
don't.
Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment. Election integrity. As
Wallace
we
wants
meet
to get out of there
tonight,
and do some
millions
coke
of
and fuck a
Americans
stripper.
are receiving mail-in ballots. Or
This is the
going to
last
vote
one on my
early.
bingo list, by the
How
way, is the
confident
voter fraud.
should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks? Because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the
A lot of people
FBI
are saying
Director,
Biden
says
has an
there's
earpiece.
no
Is that
evidence
true?
at all that mail-in ballots are a source of,
It is
of
true?
being manipulated
I'm pretty sure
and
I saw them on the
cheating.
radio.
They said that.
Really?
The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida.
Right ear to the
Number
left
one.
ear.
Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change, or are you going to get 4 more years of these lies?
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say, you have to have your ballot in by November 10th. November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that,
sir,
all run by Democrats.
2 minutes is 2 minutes.
all run by Democrats. It's
President Trump,
it's a rigged election.
You're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them. We don't like them. We don't like them.
What do you do about it? There are millions of ballots going out right now.
What you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go and vote. You go and vote.
But what I'm saying is, what are you going to do about the fact that millions of people...
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending... They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia, mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well. This is not going to end well.
Five
Set that up.
had mail-in ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by Election Day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted.
That's
He's
correct.
just afraid of counting the votes because he knows the outcome.
You're wrong.
No, I want to continue with
He's
you.
right about that.
Vice President Biden.
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes a statement like that.
Excuse me.
I would like to
Vice
see it be
President
counted
Biden,
by
the
November 3rd.
biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
So are we gonna take everybody to court?
80 million ballots.
That we think might be guilty? Are you fucking kidding me?
You know it can't be done. You know it can't. And already there's been
so now
fraud.
Mail service delivers
wait a minute, gentlemen. The final question is: in 8 states, we can keep talking. In 8 states, election workers are prohibited currently by law. 8 states from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks.
Could be months.
Until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other.
I don't think that's true. I think it'll be over
urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what, from a common sense,
does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the street?
It means you have a fraudulent election. You're
And what are
sending
you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do about that?
They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two,
Only
they cheat.
125 million people
They cheat.
voted in the last
hey,
election.
They
Yeah.
found ballots in a
It's about
waste paper basket
120
3
to
days
130,
ago,
yeah.
and they all had the name
All right.
military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
You think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. We count the ballots,
Yes,
as you pointed out.
here's the deal.
Some of these ballots in some states
Drinking
can't
game,
even
here's the
be
deal.
opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since at the end of the Civil War, in effect.
And they very frequently don't get counted,
And that's
by the
what's
way.
going to
Why is
happen.
that?
Why was it not?
Because
why
it's
is
not
it for
necessary.
them somehow
The election's
not
already been
fraudulent?
won, typically.
It's the same
Gotcha.
process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established.
It's-
Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race
I
in
asked
Manhattan.
you had an opportunity
Look
to
at
respond.
Carolyn Monroe.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is,
the
I
deal.
will accept it, and he will too. You know why?
Every
Because
time.
Every time.
once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome, and I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to
if in
see an
fact,
honest
Okay.
ballot count.
Gentlemen,
We-
you say that's the end of
Chris,
it? This is the
I
end
wanna
of this
see an
debate?
honest ballot count.
We're
And I
going to
think
leave
he
it
does
there.
too.
No closing
To
statement.
be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October
week
7th, at
from
the University
tomorrow.
of Utah.
We will be
in
here.
Salt Lake City. The 2
Yeah.
vice presidential
We will
nominees, Vice
absolutely
President
be
Mike
here for
Pence and
that.
Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch.
No one cares
Until
about
then,
that.
thank
No.
you and good night.
Wow, Wallace, you can go ahead and cut that feed. Wallace is the real MVP tonight. This was absolute chaos.
Yeah.
Exactly everything that I hoped for. There has not been any great comedic television for a very long time, and that
least not live
lived
television,
up
yeah.
to the hype. A lot of the bets that we discussed beforehand that were on my bookie, actually, the one with the swearing. I knew somebody would pull out a bastard or
Was there well, I knew you definitely should have bet that because
I did.
the word bastard was
Did.
going to come up because Biden allegedly said that about, and look, Biden had kids that were in the military, right?
Yeah.
So he probably was just used to talking to them that way because he's an old time guy, and that's the way we all talk to each other that way. I wasn't offended by Biden saying that in that moment. I think it was
No.
kind of cringy because it's like, dude, you're not one of us.
But
Come on.
I think it was said in jest, but both
For sure,
statements,
but
by the way.
but if you're gonna make
Biden
that
and
comment
Trump-
about fucking Trump talking shit before,
Right.
Like obviously, it's well, one, who the fuck knows what actually happened there, but more importantly, we talk shit to like alpha dudes talk shit to each other constantly, forever.
Yeah.
And if you take those things and then put them on the like world stage context, it's like, yeah, that looks kind of bad. But he was being a piece of shit that day, so I called him a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I don't know what do you want from me?
Who do you think won the debate tonight? In all sincerity,
I don't think anybody wins in these debates. I've said that before. I think everybody becomes more entrenched in their own position, or they get their minds changed by something that's kind of irrelevant to the real discussion. You know what I mean? Like somebody has a gaffe, or somebody fucking misquotes something, or somebody fucking has some like Rubio choking or Nixon sweating or whatever it is.
Right.
That has nothing to really to do with the issues itself. But that sways some people's opinion because people are fickle and kind of dumb, right?
sure. I look at it from the Trump and Biden standpoint, and I'm with you. I think if you're a Trump fan, you think Trump won. I
Yep.
think if you're a Biden fan, you think Biden won. I think the left will come out tomorrow and say, look, Trump is a child. He's petulant,
Right.
everything else. And I think both sides will declare themselves winners tonight. The entertainment value of tonight, though, was what I really looked at.
That's the real important piece.
I was
yes.
looking forward to that Chiefs-Ravens game on Monday night. I thought that was going to be the greatest game of the decade. It was not. This might have been the greatest game of the decade. And I think the real MVP, and somebody are saying Wallace can go fuck himself. I'm not going to. That is an impossible position that he was in tonight, trying to keep these two separated. Clearly, Trump wanted to engage more than Biden did. As far as the comments flew back and forth, but I think both of them served each other's base and what the base
for
wanted.
sure. But I thought there were some pretty big mistakes too. Like when Biden was talking about electric cars and all that stuff. Now I've got personal experience in this. So sometime during the latter part of Obama's administration, right, where he didn't have to worry about re-election, all this stuff. Elon Musk came in the company, Tesla came with a proposal to the federal government, very similar to what we saw way back in the day in the 19th century with the railroads, right? So private companies knew these things were effective ways of travel, and what they wanted to do was get the government's cooperation to make this new technology expand as rapidly as possible so the most amount of people can use it. Yes, it's good for the company, but it's also good for the government and the people. It's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So Elon Musk came with this plan where he wanted to put a honeycomb pattern of car charging stations all over the United States. And it was he and his company were going to spend $20 billion, and they just wanted matching funds from the government to do it.
Right.
It's a crazy idea, right?
Yeah.
But that's how it works, the balance between government and private industry. It's what capitalism really is. So the left ran him out of town. There were protests back in the day. This is before protests became like a common thing.
Right.
But I was at them because I was doing security for the electrical company and some of the other people and Elon himself in some points. So we were doing all this stuff, and these people would come up and fucking lose their minds. And then those people that represented those districts where those people live would shut everything down. So it never happened because of Biden and his leftist bullshit. So he's trying to champion this idea that we're going to move to electrical cars. The last time you were in power, bro, you had the opportunity. A businessman came and met you halfway with his own fucking money out of his own wallet,
right,
and you told him to get fucked.
Yep.
So how am I supposed to believe you at this point that you're really going to do it?
And I think that's the biggest problem with this election in particular is, look, Trump, for whatever he is and whatever you think he is, and how loud or obnoxious or you don't like that he tweets, most of those things, same with me. But I think he has, for the most part, in my opinion, done what he said he was going to do what he said he was going to do during the campaign, and for the future itself of who could run the country, I still think it's Trump. For Biden, it comes down to, hey man, you were there for 47 years, and I know Trump brought that up over and over again, which he should. Why didn't things change, and why wasn't the country as perfect as you said it was going to be when you just left office in 2016?
Well, typically speaking, for a vice president specifically, but even for a president, I would say that you depend on the two houses of Congress to get anything done, right? But effectively speaking, the Democrats had a supermajority for some time, right? For about 18 to 24 month period, they had an effective supermajority, and they could have done literally. If you have a supermajority, that means you've got 60 votes in the Senate, so you can pass cloture, or thereabouts. I think they had 59, and one guy was out, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you have the majority in Congress because it's only a 50%, up or down vote there, and you have the presidency. That's a supermajority, right?
Right.
So you can literally, with that group of people, you can pass anything you want, and nobody can stop you, right?
Yeah.
So they had that out. They had all that, and none of the focus went towards like social justice or correcting the wrongs of, by the way, their very own party back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Right.
Nothing went in that direction. All of it went towards the Affordable Care Act, which, by the way, we've discussed on this show a million times. It was simply a handout to the insurance industry.
Yeah.
There were no regulations, nothing about, except for pre-existing conditions. All the other things that fuck people over in the healthcare industry kind of got swept under the rug for this. Like, we just got to get it passed. I think it was Pelosi that said we just need to pass this thing so we can see what's in it, right?
Right.
Like, it's nonsense.
Yeah, it was
All
it was raced through to get passed.
All of this stuff for years now has been nonsense. And I wonder when anybody's going to become reasonable again on the left frankly, because I'm not conservative or liberal.
Right.
But I'm having a hard time connecting with liberals right now because it's so far off the goddamn reservation. And we talked about this with JP Sears the other day.
And
yesterday.
Yeah, and yesterday. And, you know, a lot of the things where Trump was saying he doesn't align with his own party, that's true.
Yeah.
It seems like two different parties there, where you have Bernie Sanders, you have AOC, you have the gang or the squad or whatever the fuck they call themselves. I agree with that as well. And I think, you know, look, the Democratic Party did not want Bernie Sanders in there twice. Because let's face it, they snowed him in fucking 16 and they snowed him in 2020. Now you're stuck with Biden in this. And I think it is two entirely different parties. Making him say that he does not believe in that Green Deal, the new Green Deal.
That was a big deal, yeah.
Is going to enrage the rest of that party who is more radical like the AOCs in that. I think the big deal on the Republican side with Trump tonight was the voter fraud thing. That is a bombshell to drop that we may never know the election results. I don't think that's true. I think we will know that night, and I think you will have Electoral College votes that night. But by saying that, it gives the left the opportunity to come back and say, hey, man, we should be out there looking for more mail-in ballots. They've got to be out there somewhere.
Right.
They've got to be there. And I think he should have shut that down at the end and just said, you know what, there will be a winner that night.
Well, I mean, you know, when you're doing debates like this, you kind of have to pick which hill you're going to die on, right? Like sometimes you just got to eat it.
Yeah.
Whether it's for the sake of loyalty to the party, because if you're a true bred conservative or liberal, you want to make sure not just that you get elected, but the people that are going to help you get elected as well down ballot and stuff like that. And sometimes you have to eat it. Sometimes there's an issue on your side that you're just wrong about, and you just got to fucking ride it out and go through the other side, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think either one of these guys did a great job of that tonight, because Biden talking about defunding the police, like, no, you guys were definitely talking about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then fucking Don Lemon did a show on a Passover from him to Cuomo talking about how it's affecting you guys in the polling, and then within 3 days, you guys all of a sudden were out on the stump. Like, people aren't that stupid.
No.
And I think that's the problem with people in politics. The American population can be very dumb, right? And in general, human beings can be very dumb. But they're expecting they've gotten to the point now where they've been in power for so long and unchallenged that they don't really connect with people anymore. And that's where the lack of satire and irony come in with fundamentalism. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you can't connect with normal people anymore, so you just think, oh, they'll believe this.
Yeah.
Like, but no, that just happened like 3 days ago, dude.
Yeah.
Like, we still remember that. You have to wait for us to forget before you can tell us the lie. And they can't.
No, they can't. And for me personally, I've said this for a few weeks now. I don't think this debate changes anyone's mind. Whoever was going to vote for Trump is going to vote for Trump. Whoever's voting for Biden is going to vote for Biden. There was nothing in here tonight besides the chaos of it and the entertainment value that is going to sway a voter's mind one way or the other. I know you've said this off air a million times where you're like, dude, the debates are virtually useless. Like, these people have made up their minds at this point, especially when it's this late. You were talking about on a show a couple weeks ago that if you want to debate, do it in the summer. Where people have 3 or 4 months to think about. Right, do it in June, I think you said.
Yeah.
Where people have 3 or 4 months to think about what they said, maybe change your mind. But look, we're 4 weeks out. This is 4 weeks out before an election. I don't think either of them did anything to change anybody's mind. I don't think there's any independent voters left either.
No, well, I mean, besides, even if there were independent voters, people are still voting based on their preconceptions about things, because you don't have time in this short of a period to really not only like come to grips with the facts, but challenge them and then come up with an intellectual rebuttal to them, right? Because that's what the whole process is supposed to be. So if this happened in June or earlier, right, you have time to see if Trump will, in office currently, follow through on the shit he's saying.
Right.
That's a good fucking thing to have, right?
Yeah.
That's a test. It's a scientific fucking environment right there. And you have time for people to look at Biden's plan and poke holes in it, and for him to respond to those holes. Because look, just because a politician or whomever it is comes up with an idea at first that seems like, oh, you know, it's pretty good, but fucking this, and the other side is just going to focus on the weakness, right?
Right.
Why don't we just fix that weakness and make it better for the country? Because this is not about right or left in this goddamn country.
Yeah.
It's about you and me and all you motherfuckers out there, right? It's not about any of this fucking partisan nonsense that we've decided has become part of our tribalistic nature. This is about providing the best environment for the most amount of people and then sweeping up everybody else that gets left out of that in a way that makes them, at least have an opportunity as well. Mm-hmm. That's what the fucking point of government is. Otherwise, you can go live in the woods, stop driving on roads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the whole point. So I don't understand why we can't just do that.
Look, man, there's a lot of questions that we still have. I will say this. My favorite part of the nights was my theory coming true with Big Ten football coming back. I wore the Ohio State shirt tonight. I knew he was going to say it, and I enjoyed it. I tell you what, Dan, this was fun, man. Let's do it again next week.
We will.
If this is in a week, we'll be back. Giorgio, I think you did a fantastic job tonight.
That was fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. Subscribe to Drinkin Bros podcast on iTunes. Rate the show a 5-star and give it a quick review. It really helps us stay on top of the charts. We're always in the top 100, but we can go even higher with some reviews and some quick 5 stars. For D'Anthony Holloway, I'm Ross Patterson. We are the Drinkin Bros. Good night, everyone.